It's Monday and time for the Back to Business podcast, featuring Calgary's industry leaders. Welcome today's show host, Kim Hayden.
Gotta love summertime. And what says summertime? Like football. Going out to a game, having a hot dog, having some friends to join and experience something new. Our guest today, Jay McNeil, a former Stampeder and now the president, is going to share kind of a few of his atomic habits, what keeps him in great shape and keeps his head on straight, and how he's navigating to help grow the Stampeders to the recognition they truly deserve, because they are an award-winning team and they are amazing human beings. Stick around and find out how they are contributing to Calgary on a daily basis. But first, our land acknowledgement.
In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge that we live, work, and play on the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Siksika, Ga'aina, Piikani, the Tsutena, the Eahe Nakota Nations, the Métis Nation Region 3, and all people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta.
Well, welcome to the show, Jay. How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I am excited. I don't see, like, Tony Marie was like up here ready to greet you. She was so excited. Jay's coming. Jay's coming. Okay, before we dive into what Jay does and how you've gotten there, I want to get a little bit of a backstory, because I always find that there's seeds of success even all the way from our childhood.
Absolutely.
Go. You're on.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Okay. Seeds of success. Honestly, like, I talk a lot when I talk about the game of football, whether it's to a group of people or individual, like, what I love about the game of football is what it teaches you about life. Hard work, perseverance, teamwork, leadership, passion, resiliency, all of those things that, I've learned through my football career, starting in when I was in high school, all the way up to when I retired from the Stampeders, mostly the hard way. Right.
Yep.
And, you learn some pretty hard lessons, and it teaches you, and, you start applying those principles of everything you've learned into whatever you want to do in life. And chances are you're going to be successful if you can apply those same principles. So that's what I've used in my business career, is everything I learned playing football. It was all transferable.
And where did you come, like, childhood wise? Is this like something that was your parents instilled in you, or did you have a great mentor along the way? Because, there's a lot of people out there who the world's going through a huge transition right now. And a lot of people are going, where do I fit? And sometimes we have to pull deep from those lessons. Can you share with us a little bit of, like, where those principles came from? Because 5-year-olds don't walk around going, I got it.
No. 25-year-olds, at least 25-year-old Jay didn't walk around going, I got it. I would say probably, my dad passed away when I was young. And so my grandfather stepped in to really try to teach me, these types of things. And I can remember, him coming over to our house and having me cut the lawn and having me help him clean the garage. And I hated it. I was 10 years old, 12 years old. And I loved my grandfather. He was a great man. But at the time, I didn't like doing that stuff with him. And now, as I'm older, I can appreciate, what he was trying to teach me and all those things. And it took a while for those things to set in. But
the integrity.
It's funny how they stick with you, though.
Yeah, the work integrity. That's something we have in common. My grandfather, Merritt Hayden Kendler, best man that ever walked. My husband's second, but my grandfather is definitely the best, because I had my grandfather around, and really something about those old school work ethics. And I think that's what you're really boiling a lot of this down to, is your success has been through basic principles of work ethics. Am I correct that that's a real core for you of, showing up and doing the work?
I used to say when I was a football player, I remember when I was negotiating contracts and talking to our GM at the time, and, sometimes our ownership group, and saying, there may be somebody that works just as hard as me, but there's never going to be somebody that outworks me. And I try to do that every day that I, whether I'm playing football or whether I'm working wherever I am. So there might be somebody who's going to work as hard as me, but nobody's going to outwork me.
And it's fascinating, because almost every athlete I've interviewed, very similar. And it's like, I am like the least coordinated human being. I can get bruised in a bowl of butter. Like I'm just like, there's just nothing here, right? Yep. No coordination whatsoever. But I love reading books like by James Clear, Atomic Habits. So what are your atomic habits that have helped lead you into, because you talked about, that showing up, putting in the work. But is there something that you do on a daily, especially with this crazy world around us that's kind of always tearing at us, or like social media says, every time you look at social media, you're never good enough, right? What do you do that every day helps you put one foot in front of the other for success?
It starts, my alarm goes off at 4:00 in the morning.
Ooh, you and The Rock.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
A former teammate of mine.
Did you actually play with him?
I did, yeah. When he was here in Calgary, I did.
Okay, now I'm gonna have to like rub your arm a little later, get a picture with you. Yeah. Like, sorry, Jay, just whole new level there.
I would love to say that we stay in contact and we hang out all the time, but we don't.
No. But that's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've waited on many people when I was a waitress in Vegas, and I still got to meet them.
Yeah, no kidding. That's very cool.
So, but 4 a.m.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Get to the gym, get a workout in, clears my head, gets me ready for the day. So when I walk into the office, I'm ready to go. By the end of the week I'm tired, but it doesn't matter. You still got to get before, get to the gym, and then 9 times out of 10, if I'm having a problem with something, at the end of my workout is when I come up with my best solution, is because my head's clear and I'm ready to tackle the day, whatever the day may bring.
Yeah, see, you're at the gym. I'm in my steam shower.
It's still important.
Listening to my music.
Yeah.
But I do find that early to bed, early to rise, even though I'm not a person, I don't believe that it's like biologically in my nature. I'm more of a night, because I keep a diary by my bed now, right? I have to be able to because I'll come up, that's the slogan, that's the tagline, that's
absolutely
the idea. 2 a.m. I'm up and I'm writing things down. So it's finding ways to cope with the way my brain works. But I do find that the days that I am doing my first conference call at 7 a.m. because I'm working with somebody on the East Coast, I just find those days are so much more productive than when I'm rolling in and just gearing up at 9 a.m. Yep. Does 2 hours really make a difference?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think it makes a huge difference. But, it's taking care of stress, right? For me, it's get to the gym, take care of some of that stress, get rid of it. And then so when you're coming to the office, you're feeling good. It's, I get in early. I try to get in there before everybody else does. I can get a few things done before everybody gets there. And then by the time everybody starts coming to the office and, you start interacting and the day gets really busy, next thing you know, it's 5 o'clock and you're like, whoa, where'd the day go?
So you've moved now from the field to the politics, basically, right?
Politics,
so,
that's right.
And is that a good analogy there? Because you're having to balance everybody's budget. You're having to, you got a fine line, right? As being a former player and coming into the president's position, what are some of the things that you're feeling that maybe the aha light comes on and you go, oh, had I known that as a player? Or I can't believe I did that as a player. Or is there any kind of real revelations? Because this has got to be a huge shift mentally.
Sure.
Can you walk us through that kind of experience and what you're growing into? Because we all grow every day.
We all grow. I think you're exactly right. Like as a player, and then when I retired, I stayed on. I was a player rep for the Stampeders as a player, and then retired. I became vice president of the Players Association, and so that was very player centric. And so I think I probably had I had a taste of the business of football and the business of sports, but I had it from a player's perspective only. And to understand just how hard this business is, I've certainly learned that in the last 18 months, that there's nothing that comes easy in this business, and everything is a battle, and you've got to fight for it, and we got to work really hard. That's where this work ethic is. I think is incredibly important. I think it's really good to understand the player's perspective and that side of things, and I think it helps piece everything together, and it's a nice fit. But that learning that business side of things, where just how difficult things are.
Well, balancing the budget, everything. Like how do you bring it all together? Because Canadian football is not a wealth pool That you can't just write your checks.
Correct.
Like you can with the NFL, right? Whereas being from the States, and I've gone to far more CFL games than I ever went to anything, even just at a college level in the States. Just the level of sportsmanship, how fast they move, and just the difference in the field and such. Do you think that Canadian football maybe is a little undervalued globally?
I would wholeheartedly say yes to that. And not to disparage, I love the game and whatever form.
I have a feeling you like any game.
Right.
You seem like a sporting person
I am
all
a
the way
sporting,
around.
competitive person for sure.
Yeah.
So I was actually on the weekend. I was a celebrity judge at a ballroom dancing contest,
Very cool.
and it was very fun. I didn't know what to expect, but the competition piece to it, right? It was quite enjoyable.
You get invited to the ballroom dancing. I get invited to the wings competition. I'm seeing there's maybe a problem here.
Yeah, there's a disconnect on that. A former offensive lineman would like the wings competition as well. But, when you look at the CFL game, and I'm just going to compare it strictly to the NFL. That's, where most people make a lot of comparisons. And we track, call it 50 different metrics, to compare ourselves to the CFL. And every single one of them, we track higher than the NFL does. And then when you compare them all and you put them all into one, we call it our game quality index, we are always rank above the NFL. So if you're looking for data to support why the Canadian game is better, well, we've got that data. And what's really cool is that gives you a reason to come to the game.
Yeah.
And then
then tailgate parties.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Calgary,
And you're hardcore followers. I know a guy who's had seats for 25 years to the Stampeders.
Yeah.
And he's a mortgage broker here in Calgary, and I think he has every year he buys 10 seats or something like that. And then he invites clients. What a great way to do it. And they start with a tailgate party. But people get dressed up. They it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
We have the best tailgating in the CFL by bar down.
Even when it's cold.
Yeah. The challenge with it is, it's so good. It's hard to get people into our stadium in time for kickoff.
Oh. They're having way too much money. Way too much fun.
Take the good with the bad, right? Because that's a big part of our game day experience is the tailgating. But if everything, we just get people in just a little bit earlier.
Well, and I just heard you guys are up for new green. I didn't know this was a whole thing. I was listening on 660, and they were talking about the CFL was applying X amount of dollars so you could get new turf, and it went to Winnipeg this year. But you guys are ready for new turf. Somebody mentioned a really good idea, taking the old turf, putting it in frames, and selling it off to pay off for new term. What do you think?
That's not a bad idea.
What do you think? I think that's a good idea. So the question is, folks, would you pay for a little shadow box of Stampeder green? I think that would be really cool. I think, we could do something around that. Camaraderie. So we talk a lot about your network is your net worth, and your net worth is in the network.
Right.
And I've had the honor of knowing a few retired Stampeders, and I've come across them in different settings. And the camaraderie between the retired players is so we don't talk a lot about men's mental health. We don't talk a lot about, right now it's very high focused on women. And I can say this because I am a woman, so please send your upset mail somewhere else. We forget that there is this whole thing around men's mental health and such. And I went to an event not too long ago, and there was 3 retired Stampeders there working on a mental health podcast together. What are some of the things that you've seen that have been really great? Because if you play a sport, you only have a limited amount of time, and then you have to reinvent. What are some of the cool things that you've seen, the reinvention or the metamorphosis of some of your best athletes, aside from The Rock? We can't talk about The Rock because we all know him.
Yeah.
What are some of the cool things that you've seen during your journey?
I think Calgary is a great place for this because there's just so many opportunities, for guys that want to stay and make Calgary their home, and then transition into the life after football. And the community is so supportive and want us to be a part of the community. So it's pretty special. When you look at, the guys that I've played with that have gone on to have tremendous success, whether it's, Doug Flutie, Jeff Garcia, some of the bigger names, and that's mostly been in football, but they've both done a lot, post their playing days. And, Doug's a college game day host on ESPN, and Jeff does just a ton of different media jobs, I guess you would say. But then you look at the guys here in Calgary that have gone on to, have tremendous things, like Dave Supunjis, one of my former teammates who's now part owner of our team, has, done tremendously well in the oil and gas industry. Stu Laird, who was a fire chief, just recently retired from the fire department, and he's the mayor of Calgary. And on you could make a list of guys that have made Calgary their home and been able to successfully transition into life after football, because it's not easy, right? It's for as whatever the stardom is of the CFL and here in Calgary, you have that, and then all of a sudden it's over, and it's like
getting booted out of the fraternity.
You
have this entire network, right?
Yep.
And I know that volunteerism, I see a lot of volunteerism coming from the Stampeders.
Yes.
I see a lot of them showing up. How important do you believe is volunteerism to the success of the athlete, to the success of the individual?
To the individual, so when we talk about this concept, just in general, when you look at all the things that there is to be proud of the Calgary Stampeders for, this is the thing I'm most proud of, is our impact in the community. And I've got all these stats in my head, but last year our players made 422 appearances on behalf of the team at different charity events throughout the year.
Wow!
With 570 community hours, 55 different charities, 24 different amateur football groups, and 40 different schools. Like, talk about having a tremendous impact in our community, and the legacy that we're going to leave behind at this, as a franchise. And what's really cool about it is, Calgary is such a great city that many players, whether they're Canadian or American, come to Calgary, decide that I want to stay, or that they want to stay in Calgary and make this their home. Well, that volunteerism and that impact in the community doesn't end, when their playing days are over, and they stay and continue to have a huge impact long after their playing days are over. So it's fundamental, to the CFL and to the Calgary Stampeders. And it's, like I said, something that I'm most proud of as an organization, and then as the individuals who go and do all that hard work.
And that's what makes a great community.
Yes.
That's what makes a great community. What are some things that you want to personally achieve through your presidency?
Yeah. The number one goal for our organization, for everybody, is to win a Grey Cup. So 2024, we want to be Grey Cup champions. And that obviously takes, players, coaches, staff, takes everybody to make that happen. So we've been losing season ticket holders since 2015. We've lost 36% of our season ticket holders. In 2015, we had 21,596. Last year, we had 13,832. That's a trend we have to change.
Absolutely. So what about, we know that our trend is upward for entrepreneurs. We know that networking is key and fundamental. So maybe if every small business out there, I don't know, because I've always been a guest. I know that's awful. But, what can you get a season ticket for if you're just sitting there watching the game?
Lowest price for season ticket is $117 per seat. So that's 11 games. So that's the lowest, and then it can go up to as much as $1,100 per seat, just depending on where your seat is. So there's a price point for everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what an amazing thing is to gift somebody with an amazing night out, or, an experience. Experiential is critical, and finding unique ways to say thank you, because there's a lot of people out there jockeying. So, I am speaking from the perspective of the business club here. There are so many people out there jockeying for your clients' dollars. Correct. Why don't you give your clients an experience they won't forget? Like the mortgage broker, Mike is an amazing guy. He has such huge loyalty because everybody wants to be invited back next.
Right.
Please do set a timer. Do not miss kickoff, though. That's just rude. You don't show up late at your mother's house, please.
No, I get it. I used to happen to me sometimes too,
yeah.
So. And so it's funny when you talk about, what is the mark that I want to leave on this organization, is we have such a great, whether it's our coaches and our players, and also on our business side of things, all our staff, is they are so good at providing an experience. Like, I put them up against
The
anybody.
mid games are hilarious when people are running around and the mascot. Like there's so much. The horse. This startled me the first time when there was a touchdown. The horse came out.
Yes.
I didn't even know that
Isn't that
was
amazing?
a thing. That was awesome.
So
but
our game presentation, like we have to compel fans to come to the games. And so we have to give them a reason to be in McMahon Stadium. And I know they do a tremendous job. So the one word I use is innovation. Let's talk about what we do well and how do we do it better. And then what are the things we don't do well? And let's come up with some new ideas on how we can generate more interest that way. So if that's one thing that I can
to bring back some people and for those of you who are new here, yes, we do have football. Yes, we do have a culture here. You know, maybe this is a great way to experience Calgary, a great way to meet new Calgarians. If you're new to the city, I mean, we have a huge influx of people moving here. Correct. You know, and you said 117. So we're talking like if you got a family of 4, less than $500, and for 11 events out, like that's awesome.
Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing.
Yeah.
And what a moment to share with your children or your coworkers that is around a positive, right? There's a lot of negative things we can do, but this is definitely a positive.
And the history and tradition of, I can go on and on, but it's our 79th year, of bringing Calgarians together. And that's one of the things that I think we really rally behind is almost 8 decades we've been bringing Calgarians together. And so you mentioned all these people moving to Calgary, and a lot of them are new Canadians, and we've seen that percentage grow and grow every year. And we're really focusing on how do we, connect with new Canadians and introduce the game and introduce the Stampeders to them and let them come and feel welcome at McMahon Stadium, which is pretty cool.
Amazing. Jay, I really appreciate your time here today. Is there any closing words you'd like to throw out there? So anything that you have to share with our club here?
If you think about it, so McMahon Stadium holds 35,000 people. We'll call it 10 games. We have 11 when included in playoffs, but let's call it 10 games. So we need to sell 350,000 tickets to sell out our stadium every game. There are 1.6 million Calgarians. So in order for us to sell out McMahon Stadium every game, we need 22% of Calgarians to come to one game in 2024. Our goal is to bring in 229,510 fans in 2024. So that would mean we need 14% of Calgarians just to come to one game. It's not a daunting task. We just need 14% of Calgarians to come to one game for help us meet our goals for this year.
And you know what? You guys have like the best jerseys. I love the horse. I love you guys have great branding. I do actually have a Stampeders t-shirt that I got at one of the games. It's a silver horse on a black t-shirt. It was maybe a little, I don't know, what's kind of like along with like my mom, like hot mom days, but I was working it. Yeah. So, go and have fun. Make sure you grab one of those when they do the potato launches or the t-shirt launches, and they're throwing great stuff into the crowd and getting people excited, and they've got all the quizzes. So get ready. So there's just so many ways that you can be engaged at a single event.
And we are focused on our home opener, making it great. We've just got a band that's going to come play halftime and post game in our Stamps house. It's going to be a fun day.
Oh, awesome. Yes. Even better. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us today on the Back to Business podcast. Be sure to visit calpeteclub.com, CALPETECLUB.com, to find out more about upcoming events, networking opportunities, and membership. If you are not already a valued member at the CPC, where we are proudly connecting and supporting Calgary's business leaders.